The smell hit first, not hers. Garlic, shallots, white wine, thyme. Someone was sautéing like their life depended on it. I stood there in the entryway, staring at the shoes by the door. His were missing. Hers were there. But someone else's boots, short, scuffed, steel-toed, were lined up next to mine. She didn't own boots like that. And definitely not ones that looked like they'd been to war. My shift ended early. City server crashed. Traffic system down. I left work 2 hours ahead of schedule and didn't text her. Just wanted to surprise her. Surprise. The lights were warm. The house smelled like a French bistro. There was jazz playing. She hates jazz. Always says it sounds like an elevator with ADHD. I walked into the kitchen. She wasn't there. But Lana was. Cooking. Wearing my wife's apron. Hair up. Sleeves rolled. Eyes laser focused on a cast iron pan like it owed her money. She didn't look surprised to see me. "Oh, you're home early," she said, calm as a bomb ticking. I blinked. "What are you doing here?" She stirred something in the pan, gave me the same look she used to give waiters who forgot her water with lemon. "Feeding you." I should probably explain who Lana is, right? Too bad. I'm done explaining things. Everyone else gets to lie. So now I observe. I observed the lipstick stain on the wine glass by the sink. I observed the scratch marks on the floor like someone had kicked off heels in a hurry. I observed the fact that my wife was still not home. Lana finally turned the stove off and said, "She's not with who she told you." And that's when I sat down. Not because I was shocked, but because I wasn't. Because I'd seen the signs. Heard the lies. Counted the calories of silence in our kitchen every night for 2 months. And now here was Lana, her friend, not mine, in our home, cooking me dinner while my wife was out God knows where with a man she once forgot to mention. That's when Lana pulled a folded napkin from her coat pocket, dropped it on the table like a playing card. It had a phone number on it, a time, an address. "Check it," she said, "if you're ready." I wasn't, but I went anyway. I drove to the address without thinking. Not like in the movies, where the betrayed husband slams the steering wheel and screams into the void. I didn't even turn the radio on. No yelling, no tears, just silence, the kind that feels like it's waiting for something to snap. The address led me to a street I'd never been down before. No restaurants, no sketchy motels, just an old, 2-story building tucked between a dentist's office and a laundromat. Brick walls, no signs, one flickering light above the door. The kind of place that makes your skin itch without knowing why. I parked across the street and watched. 3 cars. All parked. All empty. Then I saw her. My wife. Jory. Coming out of that building. But she wasn't alone. Behind her was Niles, laughing. Casually, stupidly, like this was just another night. His hand brushed her lower back. She didn't flinch. Didn't pull away. She leaned into it. My stomach turned inside out. I wanted to get out of the car. To charge across the street and scream something dramatic. Something that would make her freeze and realize she'd just shattered the man who did her taxes, folded her laundry, and literally sewed a button back onto her work blazer last week like some sitcom husband from 1957. But I didn't move. Because they weren't just leaving. They were hugging someone at the door. And not just anyone. Lana. She walked out, hugged Jory like an old friend, and fist-bumped Niles. Then she looked directly at my car. Like she knew I'd be watching. Like she planned it. I sank in my seat, heart punching my ribs, brain spinning in 7 directions. What the hell was this? Some kind of twisted loyalty test? A trap? A sick little game? My phone buzzed. One new message from Lana. "Now you know. Want the rest?" I didn't answer. I just started driving. I drove past our house, past the streetlights, past the diner we used to love. I kept going until I was parked at a gas station 30 minutes out of town, staring at a half-lit ad for hot dogs 2 for $3, and wondering when my life became a side plot in someone else's story. She had lied to me. That was clear. But Lana? Lana had orchestrated something. She didn't just feed me dinner. She fed me the truth, in pieces, like bait. Which meant she had a reason, a motive. And the way she stared at me in the kitchen, like she was waiting for me to wake up and fight back. It wasn't about kindness. It was about control. I went home that night and didn't say a word. Jory was already asleep. Or pretending to be. Her shoes were back by the door. Mine were gone. So were Lana's. And in their place? A note. Not a long one. Not a confession. Just 4 words, scrawled in Lana's handwriting. "This is just beginning." And she was right. Because the next morning, my phone rang. It wasn't Jory. It wasn't Lana. It was someone I hadn't heard from in years, someone who should have had nothing to do with any of this. And what they said changed everything. I didn't recognize the number. It wasn't saved in my phone, and it wasn't local. But something made me answer anyway. I didn't speak. I just let the silence hang. Then a voice, male, calm, clipped, said my name. Calden. I stayed quiet. You're not in control of this anymore, he continued. But you already know that, don't you? I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. I couldn't even place what emotion was trying to come through. Fear, confusion, rage. Probably all of them, twisted together like a wire about to snap. You're going to find something in your inbox in 5 minutes, the voice said. You'll want to delete it. You'll want to pretend it doesn't matter. But I promise you it matters. And just like that, the call ended. No name. No explanation. No chance to ask anything. I stared at my phone for exactly 5 minutes and 32 seconds before an email notification popped up. Subject, The Fence. October 12th, 2018. You remember, right? The sender was a string of random letters and numbers, no name attached. I opened it. There were no words, just an image. Blurry, grainy, nighttime. But I knew exactly what I was looking at. It was me, standing behind a chain-link fence, in an alley behind a dive bar I hadn't been to in years. My face turned halfway toward the camera, caught mid-motion, as if I was checking to see if anyone was watching. I knew that night. I remembered everything about it, or at least I thought I did. But no one else should have known. I never told Jory, never told anyone. What I did that night was supposed to stay buried with the person I was back then, some pathetic version of me who made a mistake and prayed the world would move on. But someone had been watching. And now, they wanted something. I refreshed the inbox. A second email arrived. Subject, play along. Or we both go down. This one had an attachment, a short audio clip. I pressed play with shaking fingers. It was a recording. Muffled voices. Mine. Jory's. From 2 weeks ago, in our living room. We were arguing about her staying out late again. I remembered it. But in this version, my voice sounded harsher, almost threatening. Spliced? Edited? Or was that really how I sounded? The clip ended with a loud crash, something I never remembered happening. I didn't know what to believe anymore. I jumped when I heard the front door open. Jory. She was home early for once, acting casual, like nothing in the world had shifted. Hey, babe, she said, setting her bag down. You okay? You look like you saw a ghost. I nodded too quickly. Just a headache. She walked into the kitchen, humming. I followed her with my eyes, trying to read her body language, trying to figure out how much she knew. Was she in on it? Was this the reason Lana cooked dinner that night? Was the entire thing staged? The boots by the door, the hug outside the brick building, the napkin? That damn napkin. But here's the thing that made my blood go cold. On the back of that napkin, in ink so faint I hadn't noticed it before, were 4 numbers. A time, a place, a date, and it matched October 12th, 2018. Lana hadn't just shown me Jory's betrayal. She had reminded someone that I wasn't innocent either. So now I was stuck in the middle of a game I didn't know the rules to, being watched by ghosts of my own making, and the 2 women who once pretended to care about me. They were on opposite teams, and I still didn't know which one wanted to destroy me first. I didn't sleep that night. Not even close. I lay there next to Jory, listening to the soft, rhythmic sound of her breathing, wondering how someone could look so peaceful with this much poison flowing just beneath the surface. Her phone buzzed once around 2:43 a.m. I didn't check it, not because I didn't want to, but because I was scared that I already knew what I'd find, and knowing it for sure would turn all my rage into something even uglier. By 6 a.m., I was dressed and gone, driving aimlessly like a man trying to outrun gravity. My inbox was quiet, but I kept refreshing it every few minutes like some desperate addict waiting for the next dose of horror. I couldn't go to work, couldn't go to my brother's, couldn't even go to the diner I used to love, because Jory and I had too many memories there. Every street I turned down had her fingerprints on it. Except one. The warehouse. The one from the napkin. I hadn't planned to go there. But my hands turned the wheel like they had a memory of their own. It was out by the old rail yard, a part of town that looked like it had survived an apocalypse and just decided to keep existing anyway. The sky was the color of wet cement. My tires crunched over gravel as I pulled up to the entrance, which was sealed with a rusted chain and a "No trespassing" sign that had clearly lost its power decades ago. I got out and just stood there for a minute, staring at the building. It wasn't threatening, not really, just forgotten. But something about it felt wrong. Like the air around it was thicker, heavier, like whatever lived inside the walls still remembered pain. I ducked under the chain and stepped through a broken side door. The place was cavernous, hollow, filled with the stench of oil, mold, and something vaguely metallic. My footsteps echoed in a way that made it impossible to tell if I was alone. I wasn't. There were photos hanging on a line in the middle of the room. Hundreds of them. Candid shots. Blurry surveillance-style images. Some recent, some clearly old. And not just of me. Some of Jory. Some of people I didn't recognize. All of them labeled by date, time, and location. Then I saw it. A photo of me and Lana. Not recent. This was at least 6 years old. Taken outside a 24-hour diner we used to visit back in college. We were sitting close. Too close. She was laughing. I had my hand on her thigh. I stared at it like it might blink. Then a voice behind me said, "You shouldn't be here alone." I turned so fast I nearly slipped on the dusty floor. It was Lana, wearing a black coat, hair pulled back, holding a tablet in one hand like it was a weapon. "How did you?" I started. "I knew you'd come," she said. "You needed to see it for yourself." "See what? That you've been stalking me? That this whole thing was some kind of revenge fantasy?" She tilted her head. "You think I'm the one pulling the strings?" I laughed, bitter and too loud. "You cooked me dinner, told me my wife was cheating, left a napkin with a coded message, and now you're standing in a serial killer scrapbook studio, trying to act like you're not involved?" She walked over to one of the photos and tapped it. A picture of Jory and Niles, at a hotel bar, smiling, toasting drinks. "I didn't take these," she said, "but I've been trying to figure out who did. And why." I didn't believe her. Not fully, but a sliver of something inside me wavered. Doubt. Hope. She held out the tablet. "Watch this." I hesitated, then took it. It was a video file, time-stamped 2 days ago. Security footage from what looked like a parking garage. Niles walked into frame first, pacing, checking his phone. Then Jory appeared. She was crying. Not the single tear down the cheek kind of crying. The full body, shoulders shaking, silent scream kind. Niles tried to hug her. She shoved him away. Then someone else stepped into frame. Me. Or someone who looked exactly like me. Same coat. Same build. Same walk. Except I was never there. The figure walked up behind Jory, said something I couldn't hear, and she flinched hard. Niles shoved the lookalike, and then the footage cut to static. "What the hell is this?" I whispered. Lana looked at me, dead serious. "Someone's impersonating you, Calden. Someone who wants her scared. And you isolated." I backed away, tablet still in my hands, my chest caving in. Because if what she was saying was true, this wasn't just betrayal. This was construction. Someone was building a version of me I didn't recognize, and using it to destroy everything I still had left. I didn't speak to Lana for the rest of that day. After she showed me the footage, the video of the man who looked exactly like me, I just walked out of that warehouse like it was on fire. My legs were jelly, my pulse somewhere north of normal, and my vision kept stuttering in and out of focus like my brain was trying to reject what I'd just seen. Someone was impersonating me. Someone who knew how I walked, what I wore, how I held my shoulders when I was pretending I wasn't broken. And worst of all, someone who was terrifying my wife while making her think it was me. But here's the thing. Even after all of that, even after everything she'd done, a part of me still wanted to protect her. It's pathetic, I know, but it's not something you can switch off. Love doesn't just evaporate the second someone hurts you. It mutates. It turns into this sick, twitching thing that still wants to crawl back into their arms, even if those arms are the same ones wrapping around someone else behind your back. I didn't go home. I drove 3 towns over to a roadside motel that smelled like bleach and old secrets, paid cash for the room, and locked the door behind me like I was expecting to be hunted. I sat on the bed, scrolling through every old photo I had of Jory, every message, every voicemail, listening for something I missed. Anything that could explain who that man in the footage was. Anything that could explain why Lana had access to it. But nothing added up, until I searched something I'd never thought to search before. Jory's maiden name. We'd never talked much about her life before me. I always chalked it up to trauma. She said her family was chaotic, disconnected, that she'd moved around a lot as a teenager and didn't keep in touch with anyone from back then. I respected that. I thought I was being kind. Turns out, I was being played. Because when I searched her maiden name, Jory Kendricks, I found a missing persons report, dated March 2009, from a small town in Minnesota. A girl named Jordan Kendricks, 15 years old, reported missing by her aunt after allegedly disappearing from school grounds. No confirmed sightings. Case went cold. Except, she wasn't missing. She just changed her name. Jory Kendricks vanished at 15, and Jory Lynn showed up at 19 with a fresh ID and no paper trail. The photo on the report was blurry, but it was her. No doubt. Same eyes. Same tilt to the chin. But her expression, it wasn't like the Jory I knew. It was sharper, guarded, like she already knew people weren't to be trusted. I suddenly realized I hadn't been married to a person, I'd been married to a persona. So now the question wasn't, why is she cheating? It was, what is she running from? And more importantly, who else knew? Because someone did. Someone had pulled surveillance footage. Someone had found her original identity. Someone had set all of this up not just to expose Jory, but to manipulate me into helping them do it. I called Lana. She didn't answer. I called again, straight to voicemail. By the third time, I finally got a text. If you're ready to hear everything, meet me tonight. Same place. Come alone. No signature. No emoji. Nothing to soften the edge of the words. I stared at the message for a long time, then powered off my phone. Because I was tired of playing by other people's timing. Tired of waiting for pieces of truth to be thrown at me like scraps. I still had the address from that missing persons report. The aunt who filed it was still listed as a resident in a nearby suburb. She had a landline. I wrote it down. Dialed. She answered on the third ring. I told her my name. Told her I was Jory's husband. Silence. Then she said 4 words that made my blood freeze. You need to leave her. My throat closed. Why? A pause. Then she whispered. Because she's not who you think she is. And the man who wants her back isn't going to stop. I didn't respond right away. Her voice, the aunt's, it wasn't just warning me. It was pleading. I could hear it in the way she paused between words, like she was trying to find a way to say what needed to be said without cracking herself open in the process. But I didn't have patience anymore. My life was unraveling faster than I could process. And if she had answers, I needed them now. What do you mean he wants her back? I asked, barely recognizing the sound of my own voice. The line crackled. She was never supposed to leave. They had rules. Families like that, old families, they don't take betrayal lightly. You're not listening to me. You don't know what kind of people you're dealing with. I didn't even know who I married, I said bitterly. That's the thing, Calden, she whispered. Neither did she. And then she hung up. I stared at the phone, not moving, not blinking, just sitting on the edge of the motel bed while the hum of the old mini fridge filled the room like a countdown. I didn't know what she meant. Not really. But it sounded like Jory didn't just run away from a family. She ran away from something worse. Something structured, controlled, something that was still watching her. Watching us. I couldn't sit still. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I needed to move, to confront someone, to throw something through glass just to hear it shatter. But instead, I powered my phone back on and drove to the warehouse. Lana was already there. This time she wasn't alone. There was a man with her. Tall. Late 40s maybe. Shaved head. Navy blue pea coat. He looked like someone who had worked in shadows long enough to forget what sunlight felt like. The second I stepped inside, he turned and looked at me like I was already a disappointment. Lana didn't smile. Didn't greet me. Just said, "This is Elliot. He worked for her family. Long time ago." I swallowed the 1,000 questions forming in my throat. Her real family? Elliot stepped forward. His eyes were cold, but not unkind. Just empty in that way only people with long histories of regret ever manage to be. I was assigned to Jordan Kendricks when she was 13, he said calmly, like he was reading a police report. She was gifted, precise, curious, too curious. Her father had plans for her, but she didn't agree with those plans. Plans? I asked. Like college? Marriage? Elliot shook his head. More like succession. Her father ran operations that blurred moral lines, the kind of things governments like to pretend they don't contract. But it wasn't just about the work. It was about legacy. She was supposed to take over. But instead, she disappeared. Lana cut in. She didn't just disappear. She faked her own abduction, set fire to one of the safe houses, and vanished without a trace. We all thought she was dead for 5 years. Then we saw her wedding photos online. New name, new face, almost. But it was her. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. So, you've been tracking her all this time? No, Lana said. He has. Who? The one impersonating you. Elliot pulled a file from his coat and handed it to me. Inside were photographs, some of Jory, but many of me. Me at work. Me at the grocery store. Me in the shower, taken from a high angle through what looked like a vent. You're not just collateral damage anymore, Elliot said. You're the new leverage. It was too much. Too surreal. My wife had lied about her name, her childhood, her family, and now I was being stalked by someone wearing my face. Someone trying to dismantle my life piece by piece like a puzzle only he understood. But why? I asked. Why now? Elliot looked at Lana. Lana looked at the floor. Then he said, because your wife is pregnant. The silence hit like a bomb. My vision blurred. No, I said immediately. She would have told me. Not if she didn't know whether it was yours. I felt the ground tilt beneath me. I backed away, the folders slipping from my hands, papers scattering like dead leaves across the concrete. Don't jump to conclusions, Lana said quickly. We don't know how far along. It could still be. No, I snapped. You don't get to soften this. You don't get to stand there in your secret war room and act like you're protecting me when you've been hiding everything. I turned toward the door. Where are you going? Elliot asked. I'm going to ask my wife one question, I said. And depending on how she answers, I'm either walking out of that house for good, or I'm burning everything down with her in it. I parked 3 houses away, sat in the car until my hands stopped shaking. The street was quiet, too quiet, like the air itself was holding its breath. My eyes stayed locked on the house I used to think was mine. The one with the blue door Jory insisted we repaint every year like it was some sacred ritual. The same door I carried her through on our wedding night, clueless to the fact that I was marrying a ghost who'd buried her real name beneath my last one. She was inside. Lights were on. Blinds opened just enough to silhouette a woman moving slowly through the kitchen, pouring wine, folding a dish towel. Normal things. The kind of things that wouldn't register in a normal marriage. But right now, every motion looked like performance art. Like she knew I was watching and wanted to look innocent. Or maybe she didn't care anymore. I walked to the door and didn't knock. I still had my key. When it turned in the lock and I stepped inside, she didn't flinch. Hey, she said, without turning around. I was wondering when you'd stop running. Just like that. Not even a greeting. Like we'd just come back from separate errands, and she was about to ask what I picked up for dinner. I stepped forward, slowly. You're pregnant. She didn't respond right away. Just set the wine glass down and rested both palms on the counter like she was bracing for an earthquake. Then she nodded. How long? 7 weeks, she said, voice calm. Maybe 8. I've been trying to figure out what to do. What to do? I repeated, half laughing. You could start by telling your husband the truth. She turned to face me then, finally, and I saw it. Not guilt, not fear, not even anger. Resignation. Like the dam had already broken and she didn't see the point in pretending anymore. The truth, she said softly. Which version are you ready for? The one where I cheated on you? The one where I lied about my name? The one where someone's pretending to be you and trying to burn our lives to the ground? I stared at her, stunned. You knew about him. I didn't until 3 weeks ago, she said. But then things started happening. People watching me. Emails from accounts that don't exist. Footsteps outside our bedroom window at night. And I knew. Knew what? That my past was catching up. She walked to the table, picked up an envelope, and slid it toward me. I hesitated, then opened it. Inside were photos. Of me. But these weren't surveillance photos like the ones Elliot had. These were more personal. Me sleeping. Me cooking. Me laughing with her in the park. Dozens of moments from the last 2 years. All from angles I never noticed. I found these hidden in a storage locker under a fake name, she said. They weren't mine. And they weren't yours. My skin crawled. Then whose were they? She didn't answer. I raised my voice. Jory. Whose? Photos. Are these? She walked over and sat down, rubbing her temples like the weight of everything was finally crushing her. There's a man named Brain. He used to work with my father. He believed in control, not business. Psychological warfare, manipulation, cloning identities, artificial personas. He created double lives for people before the government could even conceptualize it. I think he created one for you. I laughed. I couldn't help it. You think some lunatic made a second me? What? Grew him in a lab? No, she said. He doesn't need to grow people. He builds digital lives. Bank accounts, medical records, job histories, photos, memories. Enough to convince the system that someone's real. And if someone looks enough like you, talks like you, walks like you, they become you. I whispered. She nodded slowly. The man in the footage. That wasn't a mistake. He wants me to believe it's you. And he wants you to believe that I betrayed you first. Why? I asked, almost choking on the word. She looked me dead in the eyes. Because I left him. Because I chose you. I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. All the pieces were there. The emails, the surveillance, the impersonator, the pregnancy, the lies. But none of them added up to something I could hold on to. It was like trying to put together a puzzle where every piece belonged to a different picture. And then she said the thing that truly broke me. Calden, she whispered. I'm not sure if the child is yours. But if it is, you need to run. Because Brain doesn't just want revenge anymore. I swallowed hard. What does he want? She looked up at me, eyes red, voice cracking as she said. He wants an heir. For a long time, I didn't say anything. I just stood there, in the house that was supposed to be mine, across from a woman who had built an entire second life to escape the first one, and now feared she had brought the nightmare to my doorstep. The air between us was so thick I could hear my pulse in my teeth. But strangely, I didn't feel hate anymore. Not for her. Not even for myself. I felt something else. Something heavier and somehow softer. Clarity. All this time, I thought I'd been the victim. The man being lied to, used, manipulated. And maybe I was. But Jory wasn't the villain. She was a survivor, stitched together by trauma, secrecy, and the desperate need to outrun a future she never chose. And now, standing there, hollowed out by her own past, she looked more real than she ever had before. I stepped toward her slowly. She tensed. But I didn't yell, didn't demand more answers. I just asked the one thing I should have asked from the beginning. What do you want? Her eyes filled, and for the first time since this all began, she cried, not from fear, not from guilt, but from the sheer relief of someone finally asking her that question without conditions. I want out, she whispered. For real this time. No more aliases. No more hiding. No more running. I want to be someone who doesn't have to lie to love. We sat at the table until sunrise. She told me everything. About Brain, about the mental conditioning, about the deal she made to disappear when she was 17, the fake kidnapping, the burned safe house, the years of silence. About how meeting me wasn't part of any plan, and falling in love was never supposed to happen. That she married me because for once, she didn't want to play a role. She wanted to be someone. And when she found out she was pregnant, she realized she'd have to choose. Either run again and drag our child into the same pattern of fear and erasure, or fight. Fight for a real life. With me. And for the first time since all of this began, I chose to believe her. We made a plan. We reached out to Elliot. He knew people outside the system's brain controlled. Off-the-grid safe houses. Deep erasures. Legal ghosts. And unlike before, we wouldn't be running scared. We'd be walking away with our heads up, prepared, protected, and backed by someone who finally had the resources to fight back. Within 48 hours, our identities were wiped. Bank accounts closed. Phones destroyed. The house sold to a shell company. Jory became Jordan again. And I became no one, by choice. But here's the thing about starting over. It's terrifying. And it's beautiful. 6 months later, we live in a coastal town where nobody knows our names. We own a tiny bookstore that barely breaks even. And every night, we walk the beach barefoot, like time finally slowed down just enough to let us catch up. The baby is due in 4 weeks. We don't know if it's mine, and we don't care. When it comes, it will know love, not legacy. Peace, not paranoia. Truth, not fear. And the man who tried to destroy us? He disappeared. Maybe he's still out there, watching, waiting. Or maybe he realized that you can only control someone who doesn't know who they are. But once someone decides to live without fear, without falsehood, they become harder to own. And now, every morning I wake up next to the woman who once almost ruined me. I realize something that makes all the pain worth it. She didn't. She saved me. Not with a lie. but with the truth that finally had nowhere left to hide. We both did terrible things to survive. But now we live. Together. Free.